And we're moving on to the next speaker, Dr. Ruth McAllister. And Ruth is a Renate member who heads up the research and intelligence at Harrod Global Investigative Solutions based in London and the UK. And there's a nice segue again between what Brian has been talking about and what Ruth will talk about to us in relation to the prevention of online recruitment, awareness raising for NGOs and civil society, which is particularly pertinent for Renate and our network, since Renate has secured representation at the Council of Europe, specifically at the Conference of INGOs at the Council of Europe, which gives a voice to all of us. So over to you, Ruth, please.
Thank you very much, Anne, for that introduction, and hello everybody. It's nice to see so many people here today. As Anne has said, I will essentially follow on from what we've heard from previous speakers, especially Brian and Imelda earlier. The work that I'm going to talk about is around prevention of online recruitment and awareness raising. So as we know, there are 3 key stages to the human trafficking process. We have recruitment, transportation, and exploitation. A lot of empirical research, certainly within academia and other spheres, generally will focus on the exploitation side of human trafficking. I actually work at the very first phase, which is recruitment. The theory being that if we can prevent individuals from being recruited in the first place, it stands to reason, of course, that exploitation will naturally be reduced as well. There's very little research done in this area, so it's really quite exciting to take on some of this work and share with you today. So as I've said, what I undertake is investigations of recruitment at the very start of this process. And how I do that, I analyse job advertisements that are placed on recruitment and also on classified websites, usually that advertise for jobs abroad. So I look for individuals who may be tempted to work overseas, those who may move from poorer countries to, if you like, richer countries. And the idea being to really understand how these adverts are placed, the kind of language that is used in the adverts, and really better to understand the MO, if you like, of those individuals involved. The idea being that disruption tactics could be put in place. So we've heard a lot about technology and we've heard a lot about technology companies, but what about website administrators as well, and what they can do if they see a suspicious advert? So we're attempting to create classifiers of what will determine what a suspicious advertisement is. That is no mean feat, it has to be said, and we're still undertaking this research to identify such indicators. Really what we want to do is aid intelligence in this way, not just for women and girls, but also for law enforcement as well. We do know that technology is involved in human trafficking, and we know it's involved in sexual exploitation and of course within recruitment, but we don't really know how it is used in recruitment, and victims, whenever they are rescued, don't really tell individuals, the police, for example, and workers that will help them. They don't often tell them how they came to be in that particular destination country. So there's really a massive void in terms of intelligence and how individuals are recruited. Is it through these classified websites? Is it through job advertisements? Is it through dating websites, for example? So there really is quite a void in this area. So what we want to do is work with some of these platforms and provide greater awareness and education for those individuals, whether it be women, children, other individuals in those countries, and also NGOs as well, to almost educate them on what to look for if they are thinking of looking for a genuine job abroad, to really further their own career and their own advancement. So in terms then of, just trying to get my slide to move on, which is proving problematic. Okay, so in terms of what we do know, there is a general consensus that there has been an explosion in sex trafficking due to technology. These concerns are not new. They have been around for about 20 years or so. But what we don't really know is to the extent. And that's because human trafficking is notoriously difficult to investigate. So for example, what's sex trafficking and what's sex work? These distinguishing, if you like, terms aren't usually explained or understood very well by certain individuals and organisations. But because we know technology is involved in some way, it therefore seems somewhat logical or reasonable to suggest that the solution can be technology. And we've heard some discussions around that already today. For example, in terms of investigations, it can help speed up that particular process so they become, processed more quickly through official channels, for example. Also, too, in terms of machine learning, if we can train computers to identify what is suspicion, whether that be through images, whether it be through text, for example, that too is a benefit. The problem is with training machines through AI is that usually it's expert individuals who will determine what suspicion is, what is risk, and that also can be slightly problematic. We can also understand movement better through technology as well. But as we've heard from Brian previously, getting the accurate data is really, really important. So we have to train our machines very well to do this. So we have to have lots and lots of test cases for that. So we need to understand better this nexus between trafficking and technology. We're not entirely too sure how it does work, and always asking experts their advice around suspicion and risk can be problematic. Also too, if we focus so much on technology, what we're at risk of doing is ignoring the wider structural issues around inequality as well. So things like economic policies, migration policies also. So we have to really think about technology as being part of the answer without ignoring these wider structural in-country issues as well. So to give some background into some of the work that we've done in terms of our own research approach with job advertisements, I've done a lot of work within Romania and also within Moldova. The work in Moldova predated Putin's invasion of Ukraine, so I have good data to compare, if you like, the before and the impact of the war in Ukraine as well. So what I have done in terms of structuring the data is to scrape job advertisements from various sites within Romania and Moldova. So within a job advertisement, you usually have certain characteristics. So you have the job, you have the location, the telephone number, the contact details of the person who posted it, the date it was posted, the sums involved, the salary or the wages, for example. You'll have contact details. You may also have images used by that person, and you'll have the length of time that person has been on that website. So all of that data is structured into a database for analysis. And obviously in 10 minutes, I can't go through an awful lot of the detail of this information, but just to give a bit of a brief example of that. So this is data in relation to Moldova. And what I was interested in looking at there was whenever people first registered to post on certain job sites within Moldova. And as you can see, in terms of the registration dates, there was an explosion, if you like, of those individuals who posted advertisements in 2022. And of course, you may think, well, is that because of what happened in Ukraine? So therefore, what is the impact around that? Are these genuine individuals who are posting genuine job advertisements, or is there something else going on? So those things are quite important in terms of how we think about some of this information and this data. Like I say, other things we looked at were email and contact details also. But the date of registration may be one indicator of, if you like, identifying suspicion or risk within these websites. So in terms of the end process, if you like, the dissemination and the education, we work with NGOs to deliver training for women and provide policy input. We also give training to NGOs as well and provide them with some of this data to help them within their work in source countries also. And also what we want to do is better understand this trafficking technology nexus. How does technology impact on trafficking? We can make a lot of sweeping statements around technology, but we also have to remain critical and, like I say, think about the wider structural issues as well. We also work a lot with law enforcement to help fill the intelligence void that I mentioned at the start. How do victims end up in destination countries? And then the other aspect is to work with online platforms around risk and vulnerability. So for example, if they see a pattern in terms of individuals posting advertisements that may be deemed to be suspicious, that should be investigated. And of course, that will be the case legally under obligations that will come from the Online Harms Act next year, I think, whenever it will be introduced within the UK. So that is me. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Ruth. That was wonderful. And in many senses, we're building up a view for everybody of the gravitas, really, of the voice of Renate sitting at the table at the Council of Europe, being